Welcome to the Pro Tips video series designed to arm biology learners with background knowledge needed to kick butt during upcoming lessons. Students are encouraged to watch these tutorials before attending lecture on the topic and rewatch them while studying. I'm Professor Workman, and today's Pro Tips introduce the scientist's job. Over the years, I have asked my students to share their first impressions of what scientists do. Here are some common responses. Scientists do experiments, look through microscopes, use math equations, work with nature, play with test tubes, create new medicines, predict earthquakes, study animals, study outer space, and my favorite, once a student said, scientists blow stuff up. And while it's true that a given scientist, depending on their field of specialization, may do some of these things, it is important for learners to understand what it is that all scientists have in common. What makes a person a scientist? Simply put, scientists test hypotheses. And we do this by recording observations. In fact, scientists are often called investigators because we gather evidence by personally observing whatever it is we are studying. The body of evidence we put together, the same way a prosecutor might put together arguments in a court case, either agrees with or contradicts the hypothesis. This brings us to our key word, hypothesis. A hypothesis is a potential explanation for something you have observed. And just like this youngster, I'd bet $1 million that you've been brainstorming hypotheses your whole life. This inquisitive child is observing what looks like a plant in the jar, and he may be brainstorming explanatory frameworks for what he sees. Perhaps he observes that the plant looks healthy, and therefore suspects that it got a lot of sunlight and water. We will practice more with hypotheses in a minute, so for now, please note its definition and that hypotheses are statements, not questions. And importantly, only some hypotheses are scientific. It is important to be able to distinguish between scientific and non-scientific hypotheses. So let me share some examples and explain why they belong in one category versus the other. We will start with examples of scientific hypotheses. So consider these statements. All tires are made of rubber. It rains more in Idaho than in Arizona. Green leaves contain something called chlorophyll. Orange roots contain chlorophyll. Ice are the rarest type of Pokemon. I will die if I eat those shrimp. It is important to note that these statements could be true or false. That doesn't matter. What makes a hypothesis scientific is that you can gather evidence by making observations and find out. An adjective describing hypotheses that can be contradicted with evidence is refutable. Any hypothesis that is refutable is a scientific hypothesis. Contrast those refutable statements with the following set of non-scientific hypotheses. Yoshi is the best Mario Kart avatar. People are reincarnated after death. My dog thinks she's a human. My mommy loves me. The universe contains a type of undetectable matter that humans cannot perceive. The first statement is not scientific because it is an opinion. Yoshi happens to be my favorite, and no amount of evidence will convince me otherwise. These other statements are not refutable. For instance, what evidence could you gather to dispute that people are reincarnated after death? I can't think of any. For the next one, is it possible for me to know what my dog is actually thinking? No. And if I believe my mommy loves me, and I do, There are no observations that could prove this false. Now, this last example is fun because it sounds so scientific, but it isn't. Because if humans can never detect this hypothesized matter, then there is no way for us to contradict this claim. Notice that some of these non-scientific hypotheses are likely true, but they are not the business of scientists. The job of a scientist is to test scientific hypotheses only. To recap, scientific hypotheses are those that are refutable. This means that if the hypothesis is wrong, there's a way to find out. Scientists devise ways to test these hypotheses by gathering evidence. Through testing, multiple observations are recorded, and this builds evidence that either supports or refutes the hypothesis. Non-scientific hypotheses, on the other hand, are not refutable. This means that if the hypothesis is wrong, there is never going to be a way to find out for certain. These include things like opinions, faith-based knowledge, like my knowledge that my mom loves me. It's just not testable. It's true, it's just not testable. And it can also include natural phenomena that fall beyond the reach of human perception. So if humans can never observe the thing, even if it's real, it does not fall in the realm of science. Now let's apply what you've learned. I will give a statement, and you should assess whether it is a scientific or non-scientific hypothesis. Number 1, the world needs more scientists. This is a non-scientific hypothesis because it is an opinion. Number 2, God created the universe. This is a non-scientific hypothesis because it's not refutable. What evidence could you collect that would contradict this statement? There isn't any. Number 3, there is no life on Mars. This is a scientific hypothesis. It is scientific not because it's right or wrong. Remember, that doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is that it is refutable. So it's a scientific hypothesis because I could go to Mars, maybe not me personally. We could send a rover to Mars to collect soil samples, and if life is detected, then we have enough evidence to refute this hypothesis. Number 4, my horoscope is more often true than false. This is also a scientific hypothesis because it is refutable. This one might have tricked you because you might be thinking horoscope, that's not considered really scientific. But the logic that we need to apply here is, can I test it? And if it is false, will I find out? So imagine keeping a journal for a year, and every day you read your horoscope and you write down whether it came true or not. At the end of the year, you could compare those numbers, the number of days that it came true versus the number of days that it did not. In this way, you can test this hypothesis. Number 5, NBA players make less money than WNBA players. This is a scientific hypothesis as well. So this is referring to male and female pro basketball players in the United States. And it's definitely false. NBA players make way more money than WNBA players. But remember, it doesn't matter if the statement is true or false. What matters is whether we can test it. And in fact, the evidence that I might want to collect to try to falsify this statement would be simple. I could just ask all players for their income tax returns, compare their salaries, and if this statement were false, I would find out. That is what makes it a scientific hypothesis. Now this final example I'm showing as a pair for number 6 and 7. Because they're very similar, I've just rephrased it. Let me read them and then we'll discuss why one is a scientific hypothesis and the other is not. Number 6, aliens exist somewhere in the universe. Number 7, aliens don't exist anywhere in the universe. They have to do with the same phenomenon, whether or not aliens exist somewhere out there. But because of their phrasing, number 6 is non-scientific, meaning it's not refutable. This is because of the size of the universe. Even if all people on Earth suddenly became astronomers and pointed their telescopes into the far reaches of outer space, and we did this from now until our species goes extinct, I hope that's many millennia from now, we would still not have observed the entire universe. So even though we looked in many places, and if we happened to not have found aliens anywhere, we still wouldn't have been able to collect enough evidence to prove this false. Because of the vastness of the universe, we will never be able to gather enough observations to refute this statement. Now, it doesn't mean it's not true. So let's turn our attention to number 7. Aliens don't exist anywhere in the universe. This now becomes testable because all it takes is one counter observation. So if we just find one alien somewhere, we will have contradicted this statement. We will have refuted it. Because it is possible to refute statement 7, that one is a scientific hypothesis. So scientists test hypotheses by recording observations. And we only deal with scientific hypotheses because those are the only kind that you can test. We are constantly trying to contradict these hypotheses, and there's a variety of strategies to do this type of testing. For instance, you could record observations from nature. You could engineer scenarios in order to gather specific evidence. This is sometimes called experimentation. And many scientists have even invented new technologies that extend human powers of observation and therefore draw in more types of hypotheses into the realm of science. So think about the invention of the microscope. Now we could see very small things, or the invention of telescopes that allowed humans to observe distant galaxies, or medical imaging like X-rays, MRIs, and CAT scans that allow researchers to observe what's going on inside the body. All of these new technologies extend the human power of observation and therefore expand the realm of what is considered scientifically testable hypotheses. In summary, in this tutorial, you learned that scientists test hypotheses by recording observations. You learned that what makes a hypothesis scientific is that it is refutable. If it's false, you can find out by gathering evidence. You also learned that scientific hypotheses are not the only type that are right. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, you might consider watching other videos in the series. Here's my contact information, and I always welcome any feedback. mworkman@pima.edu. Good luck in your biology journey.